Hi everyone, my name is Santanu Hazarika. I am a visual artist, an illustrator, and a creative doodler. What is a creative doodler? What is doodling? We'll get to that. We'll define doodling, what is doodling, and what the process is all about. But before that, before we go there, I like to talk about my background. I like to talk about my history and how I became to be known as the world champion of doodling, how doodling changed my life and how it helped me break free from a lot of stereotypes set down by the society. So I'll tell you about my history. So I grew up in a small city called Guwahati in Assam, which is northeast of India. And it was a small city. We didn't have many big artists from there. We didn't have designers or artists or mentors which we could look up to. So what happened is we never got exposed to art and design as a profession, as a stream of study. So I was a good student. I did well in my studies and all, and I always used to sketch and draw, like in the back of my notebooks during my classes, and it was a very liberating feeling for me. But I always thought it was a hobby, nothing more than that. And so did my folks, like my parents and everyone around me, always considered art to be nothing more than a hobby, like most of the society, most of the people in the society. So like an average Indian family, they wanted me to pursue science, get an engineering degree, get a stable job. So I did well in my 10th board, I did well in my 12th, and then I ended up taking up mechanical engineering as a subject. But then I realized this is not something that I should be doing. I was failing terribly. My scores were really bad. I was failing in my classes, and I still struggled. I really struggled a lot to fit in. But then I didn't want my parents to be let down, so I kept trying, and which was a very dark time in my life. But then, while everything seemed very distant and disoriented, one thing was always there with me, is the habit of sketching. And I didn't have time. It was not like that I took out extra time for my schedule to actually sit on my desk and draw. My drawing went simultaneously with my classes. So here's the fun part, how it all added up. So I used to draw as a kid, but it was more like scribbles. As I grew up, there was so much of emotions, so much of things happening around me, so much of information that I was consuming. It had to come out in some way or the other. And this whole feeling of being constrained and being pulled down by doing something that you're not supposed to do, or you don't feel like doing, which you don't love, and you're actually, it's going downhill. This medium of expression, this habit of drawing saved me. I was having depression, I was under medication, which was a very dark phase, and the only thing which worked, apart from the medication, which I really stopped taking eventually, was doodling. Now, before I term this whole sketching as doodling, I'll tell you how I got into this. So what happened is, I used to sketch during my classes. Look, I would sit in the last bench. I would carry one notebook with me, and then this little book, I think. And what happened is, I used to sketch in the back of my notebooks. And that doesn't mean that I was not paying attention in my class. I was very well aware of what's happening around me. I was very well aware of what the subject is, what the teacher was teaching, and who are my friends, who am I doing what and what not, making notes and everything. So whatever information I consumed during my classes, I could transcribe it in forms of scribbles and drawings. But then it was not mindless. So that's the thing. What I did here during my 4 years of engineering, sitting in the back of my class and paying attention to what was going around, being aware of my environment, at the same time sketching and drawing, irrespective of the fact that if I'm being inspired or not, if the information that I'm drawing on my notebook is from my surrounding or any place else, I kept on doing, I kept on scribbling. And that's what doodling was. I didn't know about doodling. I had no idea about doodling and what is a doodle, what is the process. But inevitably I was doing this, and slowly I got better at it. I got better at channeling or focusing my attention to two different things. So I was multitasking. And this is what the essence of doodling is. Like, there will be many definitions. It's very hard to define what doodling is. If you ask a person what doodling is, what does it mean, most of the time the answers would be like random scribbles, things that you sketch out during a boring meeting or a boring lecture. And yeah, that's what doodling is. But most of the people think that doodling is. And they think it's a mindless scribble. It's something, it doesn't amount to anything. But that's where they are wrong. There is a very big difference between scribbling, drawing, sketching, and doodling. Doodling is not refined as a drawing or a sketch. At the same time, it's not completely mindless as a scribble. So what happened is, I got into doodling, and unknowingly I was doodling in all my classes, and be it the information, be it what was being taught, be it any of the past experience I had, I was just drawing, and it was a sort of an escape for me. I'd go back home, I would sit down and I'll pretend to study, but then I'll also be again doodling. So what you see here is this practice of doodling became a habit, and that habit turned into a system of discipline, and the discipline turned into a design for me, a design of working my life, a design for working towards a profession, a design for everything around me, a design for my environment, a design for my psyche, a design for my emotional state. So that is the essence of doodling. Now, if anyone asks you, how do you define doodling? Well, there's a proper definition for it. It's actually, the process of doodling is defined as any random marks or remarks that your body make to help yourself think better. So why do I say think better? Because your mind is not completely mindless. You're mindful. You're actually completely in control. You're mindful of your surroundings. You're mindful of what's happening. At the same time, you're mindful of what you're drawing. So that is what doodling is. And doodling is not an art form. So why I would like say that doodling is something which is a very subjective thing, at the same time is something which doesn't have much boundaries around it, because it's very subjective. There is no proper way to say that this is a doodle and this is not a doodle. This is this is the process, this is what you should do, this is how it looks like a doodle piece, this doesn't look like a doodle. No, it doesn't exist. The essence of doodling is the process that I dictated just now. So what happened is, it can be anything. It can be shapes, it can be numbers, it can be singing, it can be anything that you do while you're not completely focused at the art form itself. Instead, you're focusing on other things. That is, you can say it's a bit of an absent-minded process, an absent-minded focused way of coming to a conclusion. That's what doodling is. And what happened is, because of this reason, it really calmed me down. I started developing this habit of sketching out everything around me, and I was getting better at it, faster at it. And every other situation that I was in, I could easily draw it out, doodle it out, and I could actually come to a solution if there's a problem, if there's anything. So doodling helped me break that constraint. Doodling helped me break free from all these things that were happening around me. My depression, my anxiety, my constant failure in my subjects. And it kind of uplifted me. And why I would say, because doodling it falls under active form of meditation. So there's two kinds of meditation. One is passive meditation, one is active meditation. Passive meditation, where you're actually not making much movement. It's, for example, all the monks, they practice passive meditation, where you're in a much more tranquil state, you're not making physical movements, and you're concentrating on your breathing or stuff like that. Active meditation involves constant motion. Active meditation involves that you need to be in motion or movement. There needs to be certain movement in your body, in your muscles, in any way possible. For example, repeating a particular task more than 1,000 times falls under active meditation, whereas sitting at one position and concentrating on your breathing falls under passive meditation. And this is what doodling is. So doodling is a form of active meditation. So it helped me calm myself down. It helped me think better. It helped, and these are all the things that meditation does to you. I'll not go into what meditation is and what not and how it's beneficial. I believe everyone knows about it. So what happened is this because of this constant meditation, constant active meditation, I was getting into a mindset where I had clearer thoughts, I had clearer ideas, I had clearer conception of things and what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And this is how doodling was designing my psyche, on my whole approach to life and approach to any situation. And slowly I started practicing. I started develop this habit because it really made me feel free, and this became sort of an addiction because I loved that state of mind that doodling got me into. And then I got into design. I started making illustrations for my local bands and musician friends. And one fine day, somebody tags me. People started talking about my artwork. People started seeing my stuff. My friends would be like, hey, "You should do this. Like, you're so good at it." And then what I did, somebody tagged me in a Facebook post saying that this is the first ever Red Bull World Doodle Art Championship happening. So I signed up. I won the national round. I went on to the international round in Cape Town, South Africa, and I won that international round too. And yes, that was it. After winning a championship, I became a world champion, and that was all of this just to break free from this stereotype of doing something stable, of this stereotype of art is just a hobby. So after I won the championship, I called up my folks and I'm like, I'm a world champion now. And I think now, would you consider me doing this for a living? I think I'm good. I proved everyone. I think I'll do good if I really get into art and do what I love. The next thing I know, I got my first contract and I started working professionally. And this was the first step. This was my first step of getting into art and design. My journey had just started. This was back in 2014. And this was my first step. This was my first initiation into the world of art and design. And this is how I broke free. This is how I actually shattered all my shackles that was holding me down, and I could actually do what I wanted to do. And doodling completely changed my life. And all it took was a notebook and a ballpoint pen. I didn't use fancy paints. I didn't have books. I didn't do art. I didn't study anything. I had no idea of art and culture or canvases or paintings or digital art, Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever. I had no idea. This is the most basic thing that I ever did was just sketch. All I had was a ballpoint pen and my notebook and nothing else. And that's what I did. And it completely changed my life. The only thing that I think I did correct would be punctuality, determination, and always discipline. I always kept drawing. I always doodled. I always sketched. I never let anything touch that holy sanctity of me sketching and sitting down and doodling in my back pages. I think right now a lot of people are realizing that, like, doodling as a form of illustration, doodling as an art form has come a long way. And the very fact is because it's so popular, is because it's so simple. Everyone can do it. And there is no particular technique, or there is no particular norm that doodling should look like this, doodling should be this is how you do it. No. I can doodle while sitting here and talking with you right here, and nobody can say that it's not a doodle. You can go ahead and just draw on a wall on a piece of bat or wood or a tissue paper, and nobody can come and say that that's not a doodle. That is a doodle. And because of which the ease, the way it's portrayed, it's so simple, it's so easy. It feels like anyone can do it. And that's why it's so popular. It has become a style of illustration. Even though people don't agree, people might say it's not a form of, it's not an art form. But then again, what is art? Art is an expression, and you can't actually define an expression by holding it down and putting boundaries around it and saying this is an expression and this is not an expression. And that's why I love doodling, because it's free of that. There is no boundaries around it. You can't actually contain my expression. You can't actually say this is not. And I think that's what the beauty about doodling is. The beauty that it's not bound by anything. The beauty that it's free from all the norms and technicalities of an art form. And the fact that it's so simple and it seems so basic and everyone can get into it, everyone can do it. I think that's the most purest form of a revolution. It's the purest form of something that can break any boundaries. It can surpass any norms, it can surpass any stereotypes, and it can actually become stronger. And I think that's what breaking free for me as a doodle artist is. And that's what doodling got me to. And I really hope that everyone gets into this. Start doodling, grab a pen, start sketching. It doesn't matter. There is no one to tell you that it's good or bad, it's a doodle or not. You don't care. It's your expression. You do what you want. That's doodling.